Hi there, this is Dave from Stall Power and Motels. And I'm here to talk to you about how Jeep thought that they would deal with the threat from the Ford Bronco and later the Volkswagen Scout, which is to say the Jeep Recon, an independent suspension off road focused vehicle, which I might add is considerably larger than the Wrangler, being on the STLA or Stella large platform. So it should be smaller than the Charger, smaller than the Wagoneer S probably, but maybe, but much bigger than the Wrangler, especially inside. And I suspect largely to maintain the vintage style look, it has a front trunk, although it doesn't have a whole lot of usable space in there. It's about over a year late to production, and it appears as though they spent that time fixing the bugs which plagued the Dodge Charger Daytona, and to a lesser degree the Wagoneer S. It has a ridiculous amount of power at 650 horsepower and 620 pound-feet of torque. That is much more than the Jeep Wrangler 392, and the Jeep Wrangler 392 has much more power than the Ford Bronco Raptor. So it is quite a powerful vehicle. It is more powerful than the base Rivian R1S, but not as powerful as the top model, which is over 1,000 horsepower and also costs over $100,000. So 0 to 60 is ludicrously fast by any Wrangler standards. It goes 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. That's zero point 0.2 seconds off the Wagoneer S, zero point 0.3 seconds off the Charger Daytona. Very, very good for something that's also a rock crawler. But of course, if you're a dedicated off-roader, you're going to be interested in the fact that that torque comes right away. No need to rev the engine. You've got your 620 pound-feet of torque from the start. As for battery life, you have a range of 250 miles, which can be enough to go off-roading all day because then you're going slowly and not using a huge amount of battery. And in fact, Jeep took the concept out to the Rubicon Trail, and the trip from the town to the Rubicon Trail, through the trail, and back again was one charge. That's handy because there aren't a whole lot of charging stations on the Rubicon Trail or on most trails. But again, the power will last longer if you're going more slowly. Now, unique among battery-powered vehicles, the Jeep Recon has removable doors, removable rear glass, and removable rear quarter glass. It has a fixed roof because that really, really does help to reduce the weight, and it helps with the safety. And it's got a terrain management system with 4 modes, or if you get the Moab edition, 5 modes. Now, of course, there's a couple of elephants in the room, and one of them is the independent suspension. And a few years ago, it would have been sacrilege to think of an off-road vehicle with an independent suspension, despite the success of the Humvee. Keeping in mind that, according to Bob Sheaves, one of Jeep's advanced engineers back in the day, the original Wrangler was tested with an independent suspension, and it ridiculously outperformed the solid axles that they eventually went with, partly because they thought customers would not tolerate the cost of an independent suspension, which turned out to be untrue because Ford sells Broncos and Volkswagen will presumably sell Scouts. The Recon was designed with off-roading in mind, although it is probably not the best off-roader you can buy. The independent suspension is a short long arm up front with large diameter half shafts and special CV joints all round. The battery pack, which is 100 kilowatt hours and 400 volts, is protected by high-strength steel. Every Recon has an electronic locking differential to distribute the power evenly to both wheels. And low speed cruise control is helpful for going up or down steep inclines so that all that you have to do is steer and you can lock in a speed that you're comfortable with. The traction systems are automatic, sport, snow, and sand. And the Moab edition has a rock setting as well, which modifies pedal response to help with uneven terrain and enable two-pedal driving. There is also a hill holder, just like with a manual transmission, where if you let off the brake and you go to the throttle, you don't have to do it like instantly, or else the vehicle will move. The brake will hold the vehicle in place for a moment. The Recon Moab, which is similar in spirit to the Wrangler Rubicon, and now the Wrangler Rubicon Moab, comes with a 15-to-1 final gear ratio and 33-inch tires to make a 9.1-inch ground clearance, which is good in general, but not great for off-road vehicles if you compare it to the Wrangler Sport 4-door. And I might add, the Wrangler 2-door is a lot more off-road capable than the Wrangler 4-door by the dimensions. But I'm using 4-door dimensions because the Recon is a 4-door, and the 4-door Wrangler is actually more popular than the 2-door. Ground clearance for the Wrangler Sport is 9.7 inches, and for the Rubicon, it's 10.8 inches. The Recon Moab, again, 9.1 inches. And here's one thing to be aware of. When you hear the weight of the Recon, which I haven't yet, you might think it's a lot, but keep in mind that the compact Jeep Wrangler weighs in at 4,280 pounds for the sport model, and the Rubicon, which is better protected, comes in at 4,623 pounds, 4,623 pounds for what is technically a compact SUV. But generally speaking, because it's so big compared to the Wrangler, it is hard to compare the Rubicon and the Recon to the Wrangler. The Recon will not do as well without a lot of effort. Now, the Recon does have some clever ideas for people who actually go off-road, including a modular accessory rail on top of the dashboard, which you can mount cameras to or hold gear safely. Jeep, of course, recommends keeping rubber duckies up there to give out to other people. There is a center console, which has 2 tiers and a pass-through feature. And you can buy a wireless charger option for the top half and run a power cable down to the bottom half to charge your iPad, which has all your trail maps, if you don't want to rely on the built-in TomTom off-road navigation. Door panels are modular and they have removable elastic straps and interchangeable cargo solutions. The front trunk can hold 3 cubic feet of stuff, and the rear cargo space is relatively small, except when compared to the Wrangler. It has, 65.9 cubic feet of space. If we want to do other comparisons, we find that the Recon Moab has a better breakover angle than the base Ford Bronco, not as good as the Raptor, which is 31 degrees, almost 31 degrees. One thing to keep in mind here, when you're comparing it to the Bronco and to the Rivian, is price and size. But right now we know more about price. So the Recon is $65,000 for the base model. That is a good $15,000 less than the Bronco Raptor. And the Recon also, of course, will save you a lot of money because the Raptor requires premium fuel and gets a whole 15 miles per gallon. Whoopee! So 15 miles per gallon, that adds up with premium gas pretty quickly, and it's already a more expensive vehicle than the Recon is. The base Bronco is about $40,000, and it gets, the mileage is not great on any of these because an off-road vehicle will have lousy mileage, generally speaking, if it can also go on-road, because you have to have the safety for the on-road drivers, and you have to have the capability for the off-road. It's very easy to do one or the other. So the best gas mileage you can get out of a Bronco is 19 city, 21 highway. That's as good as it gets, and the worst is 15, 16. The Rivian starts at $77,000 and goes up to $107,000. All right, so enough with comparisons. The Recon will be made in Toluca, Mexico in 2026 and imported first to the United States and Canada and then around the world. Creature comforts include a standard premium Alpine audio system. You'll remember Alpine has worked with Chrysler for years and years and decades. With speakers under the seats, because then you can take the doors off. The dashboard has a 12-inch diagonal driver cluster and a 14.5-inch center screen in the middle. And that has integrated HVAC controls, which a lot of people won't like, including me. It does have cameras all around if you order them, I suspect. And it has a Trails Off-Road map app. It has a Trails Off-Road app for your phone, which provides a guide to US and Canada trails with pitch and roll mapping now. Dynamic range mapping on the TomTom can recommend the best charger for you to go to. It comes with a dual pane sunroof, but a large single pane power sunroof is optional. Also comes with LED headlights and taillights. So that's a Jeep Recon. We'll be learning a lot more about it, and there's some more details on my site, motels.com, and on the news site, stellpower.com. And I'll also suggest that you take a look at the Jeep Wagoneer and other great Go Anywhere Vehicles book by me, David Zatz. So look for it wherever fine books are sold. You might have to order it. Take care. Happy trails.